Hello and welcome back to the Divine Witch. As you guys seen, I posted a quick video, I believe sometime last week, asking you what it is that you want to know about Hekate. So, tonight I'm going to dive into those questions, some are experience, and kind of give you what it all means. Now, remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Make sure you follow, because the bigger I get, the more I'm able to do. As always, thank you. So before I get into this, I want to talk to you guys about how the content on this channel is going to change a little bit. In my spiritual journey, I have followed Hekate for almost 2 decades. And in that time, I've slowly descended into learning more and more about myself, about the path, and how to keep the balance between my neutral side of the path and the good and the bad, or good versus evil if you follow that doctrine. And as I've done this, there's one thing I've always wanted to do, but I haven't felt like it was the right time. See, if you follow the story of Hekate and with the whole Persephone and the descent into Hades' realm, depending on what story you follow, of course, and that's the one I prescribe to, I want to recreate that descent. Every year, my rituals and my magic during the spring and the summer would be more light focused. And in the fall, it would be more focused on the darker aspects within myself and my practice. But I want to start doing it for a year. And I want to kind of take that journey and share it with you. How the mental state changes. So I will be doing mental state checks on here, telling you things that I felt during certain rituals, how, those around me have seen changes, or if I've seen changes within myself. Was it for the good or for the worst? I've noticed this isn't done when most people start working with the goetic paths and working with certain deities and spirits and entities that would be considered malicious or bad or evil. Now, does that mean that I'm going to be consumed by it? I don't think so. But anybody who follows Hekate knows that with her, it's about embracing both the light and the dark, which I've done a pretty good balance of. But I feel for me to get the full need out of my personal practice at this point in time, I need to dive into the unknown more than I ever have. So for the next year, some of our content is going to change. It's not going to be so much light and so much fluffiness, as I would like to call it. Does that mean I still won't answer your questions? No. Does that mean I still won't have things that are considered a lighter path? No. Because first and foremost, I'm here to teach you. I'm here to be the light to guide you and the hand to hold. And I will continue to do so. So let's go ahead and dive into your questions, your experiences, and my thoughts and opinions on them. Now we got Fabi Garcia. Hopefully that is your name, and if not, I apologize. My friend had a dream of a snake on the 17th. Dark moon was the 18th and the 19th, right? So the next day I go to this website called sacredserpent.net. And roaming through the shop, I stumbled upon a goddess Hekate incense. I looked her up, and I can't take it off my mind. It's so bizarre, but it all makes sense. There are many stories like this. And you get into the point to where you're like, what brought me here? How did I get to this spot? And I've had moments in my own personal practice where I will be looking for something and then something else catches my eye and it resonates. And then the next thing I know, I'm deep dived in it for months on end. When it comes to working with Hekate, she comes to people in many different ways. Most of the common that you'll hear is through dreams, or you'll hear her name spoken to you. But also, sometimes, you got to give a little extra nudge and roll with the times. And thus she does. See, there's a lot of people who, when they work with Hekate, they're like, why haven't I worked with her before? It all makes sense. It all clicks. Why haven't I never heard of her? It's because it wasn't your time. You weren't ready to take upon that knowledge that she can bestow. Your path was not ready for it yet. So hopefully that helps to answer your question. But no, if she's someone who's called to you and you feel it in your soul and in your heart, then she will be with you until you meet the crossroads and decide to part. So the next questions that we got, which is multiple, about a good 4. This was from Ancient Hearts, which, thank you. The first one, will she work with couples? Now, I've answered this a few times on my actual YouTube channel, but I'll do it again because it does need repeating, especially when, someone new comes around and you haven't seen the channel or really deep dive into my videos yet. Now, when it comes to couples, Hekate works great with couples because she is both feminine and masculine at the same time. She is both the light and the dark, both powerful and sensitive at the same time. So when you combine those two, the power that you will receive, it's something that has to be felt, not explained. But I'll try my best. There was at one point in time, I had an altar for many years in my bedroom to Hekate. That way I could do my nightly ceremonies with her when it was just me in the house, until I started my own witchy room that we are currently in. And there was one night where I had took some things that I got from a dollar store and wrote sigils on them that came to me. I put the tea lights in them. They were white. And some herbs and some honey into it. Then I had this beautiful red candle that was in the shape of a man and a woman. And that night, I said my prayers to Hekate as I lit my candles. And it's like an energy started to build in the room. Now, this was just a nightly dedication. Wasn't even a spell work. But she came through, and she was very pleased. So much to the point to where things proceeded, and both me and my husband felt we were both being controlled and moved. And one thing led to another, and adults do what adults do. But in that moment that we had, well, several moments, honestly, it was almost like time slowed down, but being surrounded in a wave that pushes you to and fro. And as you're hearing this, it sounds very, but the feeling of it and the way that it happened, and it's happened since then more than once. But your first time always sticks. So yes, she does work with couples. Your second question, will she work with you when you take in a vacation from the craft? Asking for my fiance. Now, I had my moment in time during my, what I like to refer to as the baby witch stage, which I know it's not popular to say that anymore, but it is what it is. And that's the time period around when I was into my path and continued. Now, when I started, I was about 11, 12 years old. It was something that called to me around this time. Some of you might remember, some of you might not. There was a thing called dial-up where you couldn't talk on the phone and be on the internet at the same time, and we just got it. And I'm in the middle of the country, and I'm like, oh my God, there's people out there like me. What is this? I'm not the freak my family made me out to be. There's people out there who agree. So the more I deep dive, I start getting into it, and I find Hekate. Everything's going good. I've researched for about a good year. Decide to do my first ritual to Hekate right at sundown as my initiation. Well, when that happened, one of our family members drove up, breaking that initiation. I had just finished, but I hadn't closed the circle yet. And it was either move or get ran over. At least it was in my mind. And she was crazy, so, I mean, she probably would have. So, I moved, tried to go back and close the circle, was repeatedly bugged, pretty much. And at that point, I was unable to close it. Had things come in that shouldn't have been in that house. Had things happen to me that shouldn't have happened. Not because of my own neglect, but because of the neglect of the adults around me who had no clue of what the power, what I was doing, could do. They soon realized. When I had those scared experiences, I backed off and went back to the religion I was birthed into, pretty much. And it scared me. It really scared me. Like, before I was like, I'm done, I'm over this, I had woke up to something setting on me, choking me out, seeing red eyes at night. Like, it was just a total scary experience. And I stayed gone for about a good 9 months. And then out of the blue, I met a friend. And her mom was a practicing witch. She didn't know about my past. She didn't know what I was into or what I used to be into. And we started having a talk. And she's like, you need to try again. And I'm like, but what do you mean try again? She's like, you've tried this before. It didn't work, not due to you, due to the others. Give it a try. And if it doesn't work, you can always go to something else. So I sat on it for a while. And I slowly started integrating myself. I went up to my family and I was like, look, this is the path I want to go. But I don't want what happened to me before to happen again. When I do my rituals, I will let you know, hey, I'm about to go into ritual. Please don't bug me. You can watch me. I don't care. Just let me complete what I start. And even though I had that separation in time, Hekate was still there, waiting on me. She knew what had happened, and I was young. And if you know anything about Hekate, she's a protector of children. And at the time, I didn't realize that when these things were happening to me, she was watching over me. And those moments where I could hear a woman's voice telling me, push your energy outward and say no. That was her. But I didn't know. So we all have those moments where we fear. That's part of the human experience. Fight or flight. Well, I didn't fight my first round. But here I am again. After many, many, many years. And I will fight. So hopefully that lets you know No matter if you have that moment where maybe it's work or whatever and you had to back away from it, or maybe you had to move in with somebody and you couldn't do exactly what you needed to do. Just because it happens sometimes doesn't mean that the path leaves you. It just means that you need a break. Even the gods can understand that. So, we're going to go into question 3. Is she associated with stags? My fiance is called by her, and he did a meditation recently and found a stag. A stag with its upper body on fire, but not consumed. Was this his spirit animal? And was curious on the correspondence. Now, as far as I know, Hekate does not have a stag. That could be a spirit animal, but it could also be a representation of who he is. If he's someone who deals with anger issues, but yet strong, or maybe feels like his defenses are up all the time and needs to be, then that's the representation of him. When it comes to things like these, you have to look at all sides. Now, maybe, just maybe, because, there's always a possibility, that's his representation for Hekate. Maybe that's how she appeared to him. Just because it's not in a book or you haven't seen it online doesn't mean that it's not true for you. Now, me personally, when I work with Hekate, I see frogs. Every ritual with Hekate, no matter where, there's always been a frog. Whether it's baby frog or big frog. And I've even had them hopped into the middle of the city where I'm doing my ritual at my place. So, feel it out. What does it feel like for you? What does, when you meditate on it, or if you do divination of any kind, like a pendulum, you can ask a yes or no question regarding it and see what you get. That would be my suggestion. 4. What is the best way to create a sacred space for Hekate? Now, sacred spaces vary between person to person. So it depends on what you feel she would like. Now, when I decorate, well, you do decorate, but when I dedicate a space to my deity, like I dedicated my whole dining room to my magical work. I do still have family dinners in here. I do still, do my work in here as well. But this is my temple. This is where I come to focus and to know, hey, this is when business starts. So what I would do is, if you know for a fact that you're going to have a sacred space is different than having an altar. Sacred space is a room that you dedicate for that. And since my path deals with a lot of communication and doing things like this, I can have my work in here with me. Since my path has my children can feast while we look at Hekate on my mantle. So keep that in mind. If you're doing an altar and you want that little space around the altar to be dedicated, then you can do smoke cleanses. Hekate is considered Greek. You can do a sea salt cleanse as well of her area once a month or after every spell. You can also bring her sacred herbs, her smells, or smells that you've, like, let's say one day you're going to the store and you're like, you smell this pumpkin, and then you hear this voice in your head that says, get it. It's not the inner voice that you hear say, get it. It's someone else. And that lets you know, hey, I associate her with this scent. Now, if you look at history and stuff, you'll get a few things that she liked. She had a certain type of fish she liked. I can never remember the name of it. And if I did try, I would slaughter it, and it's just not worth it. So with my altar, I try to keep it as close to the ground or somewhere in between the ground and the height-wise, middle height. The reason I do this is because If you look at her mythos, not only in Greek, but when they try to say that she started in Babylonia and Sumerian, and then there's some that says that she moved over to Roman pantheon and the Celtic pantheon, and some debate whether or not she is personified as Morgana. Like, it's a whole thing depending on how far you want to go with it. But no, if you look at it all, there's a light and a dark side. So I always put her somewhere in the middle. Now, there are some books that will say, have for your darker deities, for your lower deities, have it closer to the ground. But here's the issue with that. If you have animals and you're dealing with stuff and your animals are like a garbage disposal, they're going to eat whatever's on that altar. We don't want that. We don't want dead puppies or kitties or whatever it is you have in your home. So elevate it some. Have an altar cloth during the winter months or just whenever. If I don't want to change it for a whole year, I'll just use a simple black cloth. Black is protectant, purification, and aesthetically pleasing for any witch. And it matches anything. So if you're decorating from the season, no matter if it's Beltane or it's Samhain or Lug or whatever it is, you can decorate and it'll still make everything pop and look good. Now, if you guys want to actually see me consecrate my altar space and my room, I will post a video of that along with the ingredients and stuff you need. So if you do want to see that, comment below, let me know. Okay, let me see where we're at. Okay, so I got one from Anne, and Anne asked me, what offerings does Hekate like? What is her day of the week? How do you do an invocation? How to make an offering to Hekate at the crossroads? When you live in the city and you can't get out to the countrysides, what spells can you do with Hekate? What kind of stuff can you do with Hekate in the graveyard? And finally, things to avoid doing when working with Hekate. Well, for that last one, I have a video that says what to know before working with Hekate, which goes a little bit into that, but I'll go more into here. But I would advise you actually checking out that video. As far as her offerings, go look at my past videos. I've got so many videos on Hekate. But I will give you a few things here because I'm a nice person. As far as an invocation to her, I'm going to make that a separate video. For the reason being, I think and I feel that it should be its own video. Just for the reason being, that's not something that I want to sit here and just rattle off within a few seconds. It's something I want to take time and go through the steps with you and record those steps and then piece it together for you. So when you're doing it yourself, we're kind of doing it together. See? Now, with working in the city. So I do not live in the countryside. I live in the city. Luckily for me, I literally have two different crossroads. They're not the dirt crossroads that we all expect in our mind, but they are technically a three-way crossroad. One is here on the corner where my house is. The other one is down from my house, and across the street is a funeral home. So, I have places where I can leave offerings. Now, I normally do this in the middle of the night, just so no one looks at me like, what are you doing? But even if they did, I don't care. Do any spell work that you wish to do. And that's what I tell people. If someone's going to look at you or they're going to mess with you during ritual, they better be prepared. Because when we do our rituals, there are things that come through. And when I do my rituals, I have a protector around my rituals. So it wouldn't be wise for someone to mess with me. But some simple things you can do. You can do love work. You can wrap your herbs outside. You can set a space like a living room, move stuff around. get you either a mat and draw your symbols on it, or you can go out and get tapestry, put it down on the ground, have your whole ritual space worked out. It just depends on what you want to do. No one or nothing should be able to stop you. Now, if you can't go outside and you don't have a backyard or you don't have a balcony to do stuff, you can still do stuff within your home. Just open your windows. Have that connection to the vibrations of the earth. Either that or go camping if you want to be more in tune with nature. I know in some places it's hard to do, but the only thing that stops you from doing any type of work is yourself. Fearing what other people think or might see, that's something else. As far as space, like I said, if you don't have a yard or something, dedicate somewhere in your home. Make it a thing. If you've got a big bay window, open the window. Or even if it's a tiny window, take the curtain off. Be naked. Your neighbor's got an issue with it? Oh, well. You're soaking up the moonlight as you're dancing and chanting. So, I mean, it really depends on you when it comes to that. Now, her day of the week, her month times as far as moon phases is a new moon and the dark moon. Or the ending is or the new moon, or yeah. Full and new. Full and new. Full and new moon. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, as far as days of the week, there's variations. Some have said it's on a Thursday. Some have said it's on a Saturday. It just depends where you're getting your information from. Now, when I've looked in the Greek papyri, they have some suggestions as well. But, I'm leading you, not doing it all for you. How to do an offering at a crossroads, even if you're in the city. Find a crossroad. 3-way crossroad. So every city has one, no matter if it's paved or dirt. And if they do your offering, say your blessing, walk away, don't look back. It is most customary to do it at night. If an officer stops you, finish what you're doing, refuse to turn around as far as looking back at what you left, and tell them that you have the right to practice your religion, that you cannot look back for what you put down. If he wants to go look at it, you can tell him all the contents in it, what's in it, whatsoever. But if anybody ever stops you from leaving anything, that's against your right of religion because you're doing something. Now, I know some people will argue, well, yeah, but you can't litter. I'm not telling you to leave a dead animal. An offering. An offering can be a drink, a piece of fruit, or a piece of bread, or, something that's handmade as an offering. So there's more than one type of offering. It is customary to never look back because, one, the spirits or herself will show up to take it. And you're probably thinking, well, wouldn't I want to see her? Probably so. But this is how it is when you're working with any deity at the crossroads. Unless it is for a specifically designed spell and ritual. So, we are getting closer to the 30-minute mark. Hopefully you guys have found this informational. Once again, the lighting's been kind of on and off, and my camera's been doing weird things throughout this whole thing, so I do apologize. But I am in my spiritual room. I will be showing you guys how to do an invocation for Hekate, along with how to set up an altar space within your home. And here over the next couple of months, I will be showing some of my personal spell work as well. If you guys have any more questions, please go ahead, comment them below. Whether it's about Hekate or something else within a magical practice. And I'll do my best to find out the information and to bring it to you. So until then, remember, no two witches, which is the same.